common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, let's bring in Gordon G. Chang on Twitter, the great Asia expert, Gordon Chang. Gordon, I'm not going to ask you necessarily about that, but I will ask you about the sort of hierarchy between China and Iran as we're talking about Iran and the threats against, of course, President Trump. Also, there's hacking now today. It looks like we're going to talk with Roger Stone later on here on Katz and Cosby, because some of his information was hacked, they believe, from the Iranians. But China's really the head of the snake. You had a really powerful column in Gatestone about that, Gordon.
Yes, the Iranians don't think they're a proxy for anyone, but the Chinese think the Iranians are their proxy. And when we look at the October 7th attack on Israel, it's clear. It could not have happened but for China's support for the Islamic Republic. So we've got to start looking at these links. They're economic links, diplomatic, propaganda, and arms supply links. This is a war that China is behind. And by the way, on Sunday, China's foreign minister, in a phone call with the Iranian acting foreign minister, gave a green light to Iran to attack Israel. This is really bad stuff. The international community is not calling out China about it. We need to start doing that.
Judge Weinberg.
Gordon, in that great article today, I was reading it and I was just amazed that your thesis is just compelling, that China wants this to happen because it was living off the destabilizing of the world order.
Yes, well, Xi Jinping reveres Mao Zedong, and Mao Zedong, one of his main ways and one of his main policies was to cause chaos, quote unquote. Mao said if you had chaos, it would lead to worldwide Chinese rule. That's in a letter in 1966 to his wife, Jiang Qing. So Xi Jinping is doing the same thing. He's causing chaos. He's supporting Russia's attack on Ukraine. He is fueling insurgencies across North Africa that look like wars. And as we just talked about, he is behind the October 7th attack. So we have Xi Jinping trying to take down the world.
What about also China and Russia, too, in the middle of all this? They seem to be cozying up a lot, too.
Yes, well, there's the No Limits Partnership. That comes from that statement of February 4th, 2022. Just 20 days before Russia attacked Ukraine. And we know that China supplied financial support, economic support, diplomatic propaganda, and lethal aid. And they've done that from lethal aid from the very beginning of the war, and the Biden administration refuses to acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's a big issue. And look, this, what is your thoughts, Gordon? Because you brought up the Biden administration. And the White House says there's not really any daylight between Biden and Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz. Tim Waltz went to China 30 times. We talked about this, how he had the anniversary of his wedding. Picked his wedding the day of Tiananmen Square, the anniversary. I mean, which is crazy. 10,000 killed. One of the most horrible days, crackdown on democracy by the Chinese. What does this mean if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz get into the White House on their policy towards China, especially as you talk about their tentacles with Iran and everywhere else?
Yeah, well, Tim Walz has a very disturbing pattern that he has to explain to the American people. He can sort of maybe explain away one or two events, but not the entire pattern. Remember, he was taking students to China. That required the approval of the United Front Work Department of the Communist Party. And that meant that series of events were basically China thought was going to help take down the United States, because they don't approve things like that unless they are very injurious to the country involved and very beneficial to the Communist Party. So Tim Waltz needs to explain that. And by the way, he was in the Army National Guard. He had a security clearance. I wonder if he got approval for those visits beforehand and whether he actually informed his superiors that he was doing that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You got to let us know. Look into that if you could, Gordon, because that's interesting. Why would someone with their background, security clearance, go so many times? And he's already come out and said he doesn't view China as adversarial. Keep us posted, Gordon. Thank you. You always have such great stuff, Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you.